Brother Moderator, why is giving important?
Well, it all begins with Jesus. Jesus modeled a life of self-sacrifice, and the epitome of that, of course, is the cross, where he literally gave his all. So biblically, we simply give because we are committed to following Jesus. So following Jesus means we do what Jesus did, and that's not easy, but the power of the Holy Spirit is that which comes in our lives to do what is even difficult. So we give because we want to emulate and indeed follow Jesus, and most importantly in that regard, allowing him to be Lord over all of our life, including our money. So it's just part of the pilgrimage of what in our denomination we call the life of discipleship. And we believe, in line with Dietrich Bonhoeffer in his book, The Cost of Discipleship, that grace is not cheap, but it's costly. So if we're talking about a discipleship which is radical, that is costly, it only makes sense that a part of that is giving more and not less. And as Jesus sacrificed, learning to have a life of sacrifice as well. So that's why we give.
How do you think we can better encourage people to give more of themselves and their resources?
I think it begins with understanding that we essentially reap what we sow. Now you can go too far with that and cross a border or a boundary into what is commonly called the prosperity gospel. That's not what I'm talking about at all. What I'm talking about is more of a kind of a common sense kind of equation that if you, for example, if you want to achieve better health, you have to change the discipline of your life in terms of calorie intake, the type of food that you ingest, the type of movement you have in your life. You add more movement, etc., etc. You can't expect to achieve better health if you're not doing something yourself in terms of planting new seeds and a new way of cultivating your life. So in like manner, when it comes to giving, you're not going to reap a different harvest in your life if there is not a new discipline in your life in terms of planting new seeds. So increased stewardship, giving, benevolence, really comes out of a new discipline in your life, which would be similar to any other new discipline, be it diet and exercise, or in terms of your intellectual academic life, reading more, studying more, auditing classes, things like that. There's the direct connect between what you invest in your life and the outcome of your life. Now again, I want to be very clear. You can push it to the extreme of what's called the prosperity gospel. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more of a basic core principle of life, of sowing and reaping. A very important corollary in all that is a premise I've discovered in my own life, that you can't outgive God. And so it's a little bit of a cliche, but I like it. If you take one shovel and shovel out of your life in terms of increased giving, God takes two shovels and shovels back into your life far more than you ever gave in that way. So I think increased giving, or beginning to stretch more in this direction, starts with what I would call a very common sense kind of approach. That if I don't honor God before everything else, including my pocketbook, you can really say, without stretching too far, God's not going to honor me in that way. I mean, there's always grace, so it's not talking about some kind of perfection or something like that. But it's a basic life principle that if we don't really employ these spiritual principles that result in good health, in this case spiritual health, we really can't expect then for health to come to our life. So I would just begin with just something other than money. If you want to have physical health in your life, emotional health in your life, you need to develop a new discipline in your life. So it is in terms of financial resources. In our life, we've given sacrificially to the church and to the work of Christ all of our lives. And we have seen God bless us far more than we ever gave. Now again, it's not the prosperity gospel, but it's just a basic law of life that essentially you reap what you sow.